Welcome back to Conversations 101, where we empower you to have the best conversations possible. In this week's episode, we're going to be discussing who you can have conversations with. Let's get started.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds.
One day on the red field patrol, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners, will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood?
Run, Forrest! Run away! Hurry!
Let my people go.
The dreams and hopes of my ancestors live on in me, and I am the guardian of their trust, now and for the future.
In today's episode, we're going to be discussing who you can have conversations with. Now, if you're like a lot of people, even if you have the skills to have conversations, you're not entirely sure who to use these skills with. Today, we're going to be discussing the 4 groups of people you can have a conversation with. And today, we're also going to be using our first conversational tool. So if you haven't watched the first video in the series, make sure to go watch that, and I'm going to link that below. Moving on, our first group. This is people you probably already know, but it's people that you agree with. From people in a shared club to a fan-only event, these are people where you know that you share some common ground. Now, using our tool, we know that we each have our own rooms of thought. But like I said, you know that you agree with this person. So we are going to actually show that. And let's visualize this. You both care about self-improvement, let's say. So you each have this block of individual growth and you relate it to learning. So you start your conversation and there's this empty room that you guys are entering together. You immediately start talking about growth, which leads you to learning. And how can you grow? You learn more, which leads you to talk about all these speakers that you're interested in terms of this area. You move on, you talk about books and movies, and you're just building on each other's ideas in this conversation until you reach the conclusion. And now you have your takeaways. You may have a few extra speakers or a new book that you'd like to read, and your friend similarly might have a new movie or a new speaker based on what you've shared. With all this build-up and personal growth, you decide that you're going to embark on your journey to development, and on your way, you run into someone from Group 2. Group 2 is the group you might not know. These are people that you disagree with. This could be anyone from a different philosophical stance to another team or even a different political party. You care enough to disagree, and you can see all their shortcomings. You and this person each have your own worlds, of course, but you know that he thinks the opposite of you on some topics. So now as you enter your new empty room together, you start talking about growth and this book that you're reading about how to be much stronger. But your friend, he's a chiller. He's more talking about self-acceptance and relaxation and sinking into his couch. So you observe the shortcomings and you say, look, your pile is leaning too much to the left. It's going to topple over. What you need in your life is some discipline. He looks right back at you and says, well, I think your tower is leaning too much to the right, and you need to learn how to relax. What ultimately happens is that you guys end up bringing your towers closer together. And together, you provide each other with balance. You each have takeaways from this conversation. Firstly, you both learn some balance. But whereas you learn to relax a little bit, to balance out your hard work and to not burn out, your friend has the takeaway of discipline, and he decides, okay, even if I do want to relax, I will enjoy that relaxation more if I have some discipline and work towards building something, finding a better place to rest. As you are now taking your day of relaxation, going home to rest, you run into someone from Group 3. Group 3 is an individual you know. This could be your family member, your friend. You have a concept of them already, and they likely have a concept of who you are. So this allows you to work with things that you know about each other. So again, let's visualize this. You and, let's call this person A, know some things about each other. You, for example, know that A is a swimmer and he's very competitive, and A knows that you are in this conversation class and you're a very curious individual. So as you enter your new room to have this new conversation, A is wondering what your curiosity has led you towards. You start to share with him the idea of balance. And you are talking about planning and scheduling, alternating between very intense work and very intense relaxation. But what your friend notices, what A notices, is actually, it sounds a little boring. He likes to live things on the extreme. So what he likes to do is have a lot of imbalance. He goes for one extreme and then goes to another extreme. And that gives him a lot of excitement in life. But you respond telling him balance is not necessarily a bad thing, and that if he had balance, maybe he'd be able to schedule in more time for things. You each, again, walk away from this conversation with your own takeaways. You learn unscheduled exploration. This is just, I didn't plan this, but right now this is what I'm feeling in this moment, and this is where I need to go. This is imbalancing your balance. He learns the ability to schedule things, and this gives balance to his imbalance. As you are off now on some scheduled fun, taken by the moment, you saw the sunlight outside and decided, it doesn't matter if I'm in the middle of whatever it is right now, I'm going to finish this sentence and go outside and observe it. You run into someone from Group 4. Group 4 is an individual you do not yet know. This is building bridges between yourself and a new neighbor, a new classmate, or even a new in-law. You and this person who is less fortunate till now don't really know what you're working with in terms of each other. So it doesn't matter, you still enter that new room together. And they begin to share with you that in general, they're a pleasant person to meet, but right now they are stressed because they are currently unable to control some of their emotions. So you are a caring person and you want to help them. So immediately you say, maybe let's come up with a plan, let's do some hard work. And it's just not speaking to them. When you're feeling emotions, this is not usually the way to help. So you suggest maybe scheduling some time for a break. This is what you learned today, that you can find some balance. But scheduling time in the future is not helpful either, because right now the stress is coming up. You run through all these different possibilities until finally you just sit there, you bask in the moment. And in that presence and acceptance, they follow. Not because of anything you said in particular, but you just share that moment with them, and they breathe into, and as you guys match each other's energy, you leave nothing else to be said. Now each of you have your takeaways here. And one of your takeaways is, look, you can't really know everything in advance, no matter what conversation you enter. Each new person adds new dimensions and depth. You got to now apply all the things that you learned today in an attempt to contain emotions. And your new conversation partner, learns about the importance of presence. They learn about you, and they learn about preparation for the future. As we discussed today, there are 4 different kinds of people that you can have conversations with. But at the end of the day, almost anyone can prove themselves to be a willing participant. But you have to also listen to the conversation they are trying to have and decide whether or not that's even a conversation you want to engage in. Listen to yourself as much as the other, and I hope you only have the most wonderful takeaways. In today's class, we learned about the 4 kinds of people you can have conversations with. The ones you agree with, the ones you disagree with, the known and the unknown. But if you really think about it, every person you interact with has more than one of these elements relevant to them. Some people you know and you agree with, but on some topics, and you disagree with them on others. So I really encourage you to look at every single person as belonging to these different categories. And then as you have those conversations, you can always continue to build. So you agree with someone, you're building on each other's ideas very often, and they might fill in some of the gaps that you don't know. You disagree with someone, and they're really showing you another perspective on how to see things. To have conversations and to reflect on how people fit into these categories. If you like what you saw today, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week as we learn our first rule of conversation.